Todd lost 45 pounds, 20 kilos, but it took burnout and a mental breakdown to get there. For a decade, business was easy, predictable growth. Then he chased the big play. Venture capital, multi-seven figures, an exit to a dream buyer. What followed was chaos. 15-hour days, 40 hours without sleep, fast food, stress, and a body breaking down. Headaches that felt like tremors, constant nausea, and finally, a perforated bowel that landed him in hospital. That was the breaking point for Todd. He took 6 months off and rebuilt from the ground up. He walked, fasted, ran, faced endurance challenges. He journaled, meditated, floated in sensory tanks, hiked with the family, and drank water like it was a medicine. And little by little, he not only rebuilt his body, but his mind. Today, Todd stands lighter, stronger, healthier, and ready to share the scars, stories, and strategies that rebuilt his life. This is a cautionary tale. Welcome to 100 Pounds to Freedom. Did you have any problems with being overweight when you were younger, like a kid, teenager, or anything like that?
Quite the opposite. I was always like a sort of skinny kid. I wasn't super athletic. And I think probably food was where I had like the least power. So we didn't have like tons of money, and there was always sort of anxiety of going out on group trips on the weekend, and other families would have money to get fish and chips or whatever, and we'd bring kind of a little packed lunch or whatever. So we were kind of working class. So that there's probably some stuff like that, early childhood, where there wasn't any power around food. And then there was also, I probably was the least powerful at the dinner table. It was kind of, you're lucky to have this, eat what you're given. My mum put a lot of effort into cooking us meals, but they weren't always super healthy. There'd be a couple of bits of vegetables, but we weren't really taught much about food growing up. So it was lots of carbs, fairly frequent takeouts and things like that. So I think, but yeah, there was always a feeling at the dinner table of kind of eat the portion we've given you, and you can't have this if you don't do that, or you can't go out if you don't eat this. So you kind of just don't have any power at the dinner table as a kid. And I think that inadvertently built up a desire to take that power back when the business started going well and we started to have lots of disposable income. We kind of defaulted back to that being a place I could take power back. So we would eat out a lot, and we'd get lots of takeout. Sometimes every night of the week we'd be getting Chinese or pizzas or curries and things like that. And I was able to justify that to myself because I was busy. I'd work right up until sort of 6, 7 o'clock, get home, I'd order food to be delivered. That kind of deliver easy, Uber Eats sort of culture. So yeah, I think never really had like weight problems as a kid. But as I say, I was very active as a kid, often out on something kids don't do these days, but always out climbing trees and riding bikes and lots of kind of, hikes and walks and stuff. So,
And where did you grow up?
In Cornwall in the southwest of England.
Yeah, I was going to say I picked up the accent there, and currently you're living in a beautiful part of New Zealand called Nelson. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so when did you immigrate?
I forget the year. My parents came out. My dad came out and did a trip, but he's a stonemason, and he has just been lifting heavy rock since he was 16. And his back, he had lots of sciatica and slip discs and back surgeries and stuff. So he wanted to move to sort of a warmer climate. We looked at Malta and Cyprus and Spain, but didn't really want to go through like a totally new culture and learn a new sort of currency and language and things. So then he looked at Australia, and it was too hot, and lots of things that want to bite you and kill you. And then he came over to New Zealand. I think all he knew was Lord of the Rings and the All Blacks, and that it was quite a nice place. Came over, hired a car in Auckland, drove to Invercargill over about 6 weeks. And when he came through Nelson, he just had a feeling that this was home. Came back to the UK. We'd never been, never seen it. And yeah, me, my mum, and my younger sister Jessica jumped on a plane and came out. I think it was 2008 or 2009, 15 odd years ago.
Yeah, so you've been here, 15 odd years. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
And my brother stayed back in the UK. He's got a property development business in the Midlands in the UK. So yeah, came out and we've done a few trips back. And I lived in Wellington for a little while. And yeah, just Nelson's great. It's hard. You kind of, anytime you leave, it's sort of like you're naturally weighing up where you are versus where you've come from, and it's just got everything.
I was there a couple of years ago and yeah, loved it, mate. Absolutely loved it. You built your own business that was amazing, but ended up kind of tripping you up along the way, right? Which led to health complications. What sort of business were you in? Did you crack?
Yeah, so I started almost immediately. I trained as a chef in the UK. So I came here and just defaulted to restaurant working as a chef in a few restaurants. And I remember, I won't say who it is or where the restaurant was, but I was working in a restaurant with a local guy, and I'm dyslexic. And so naturally I can kind of see patterns and joins and things that often are underlooked. So I was in the restaurant and I could just notice several ways we were being inefficient. Certain systems and structures and processes, I just thought there's so many better ways to do this. So I became a little bit of a squeaky wheel to the restaurant owner, consistently kind of undermining the systems he was putting in place, and that led to conflict. And we ended up in his office one day. Him and his wife were there, and yeah, I was sort of talking to him overall about the business and the model and how there were so many better things I'd noticed we could implement. And I remember his it got a bit heated. I was a lot younger at the time and less emotionally mature. And she said, "Oh, if you're so good at business, where's yours?" And I thought, you know what, you're right. I think I can do a creative business. I was a photographer for most of my life, and I thought, I'm going to give this a go. So I quit on the spot. And Hannah, my partner, she was pregnant with Louis, our first son. She parked outside, and it was kind of a mediation to kind of make sure I could keep working there. And I came out and got in the car and said, "I've quit." And
That's it.
and she said, "I hope you know what you're doing." And I said I did, but I didn't. So yeah, I had a car accident shortly after that and broke my neck, C6 and C7 bilateral fracture. Spent a number of weeks in hospital, and then flat on my back for about 12 weeks with a big brace on my head, and I spent a lot of time looking at the ceiling, and started to go through what the business could look like, what my unique skills are, what the market actually needs. And I recognized that with my background in food and making food look good, that I would I would amalgamate that with my photography interest and do some sort of food photography, food styling, restaurant stuff. So I studied at the local Polytech and MIT, thinking at the time that I would need some qualifications for anyone to take me seriously. And very quickly realized that the pace of learning was so slow. To do like a 4-year degree in photography was just so slow. I'd go home and do the entire kind of modules that we had a whole semester for in an evening.
Wow.
With YouTube University, and kind of a thirst for learning and a dyslexic mindset. I just knew I could do it quicker. So realized that I had no intention of actually finishing the course, but what I did have access to was equipment and a studio there, and an internet connection and a MacBook. So I thought I'll use the illusion of completing the course to my advantage, so that I can make a portfolio, build a website, and then I'll just drop out when I'm ready and I'll go and get some clients. So that pretty much happened like that. I remember there was a tutor, Will, and it was Christmas holiday. We were just about to break up, and he said, "Oh, just a reminder, make sure that if you've got rental equipment out, that you bring it back tomorrow, because it will be the last day. If you don't bring it back, you'll be hanging on to it over Christmas." And everyone else is sort of like, "Oh, better make sure we bring it back." Light bulb goes off for me. I think, perfect, I'll be sick tomorrow. and then I'll have the camera for 6 weeks and I can try and make some money. So he knew
Love the hustle.
Yeah, so he knew what I was doing. I did say if I'm not in tomorrow, I'm not going to get in trouble, am I? I can just bring it back after Christmas, and he kind of winked and knew. So that was it. I had the camera for 6 weeks over Christmas, and I told everybody I knew that this is what I was trying to do. And I got tagged a couple of days later on Facebook. John Key was coming to open a building at the top 10 holiday park here in Nelson, and they had $1,000 cash for some photos of him cutting the ribbon. So I thought, I'm not even going to message them, I'll just drive down there. So I just got in the car, went straight there and said, look, I need this job. Here's my story. Here's what I'm trying to do. This $1,000 is going to buy me a camera. This is going to be like my first step into my own business. So yeah, she gave me the job. I did the photos. I got the grand. And I was a bit short, and my mum lent me a bit of money on a Gem Visa to get a little Sony A6000 or something, like a little point and shoot. And that was it. I got a couple of little jobs with a local magazine, Wild Tomato, doing some food stuff and some events, and yeah, just built from there really. And then started to go to your BNIs and your Chamber of Commerce networking events, and it started to grow a lot quicker. I started to do lots of real estate stuff. So at the time, this is maybe 13 years ago, I noticed real estate agents weren't really doing good marketing, and I was very introverted and nervous to do any sales or outreach, so I was reliant on getting clients from referrals. And I recognized if you have sort of 10 real estate agents, they're kind of doing your sales, right? Every time they get a listing, they're booking you for a job. If I just keep them happy, they're out there getting new work all the time for me. So I rode that train for maybe 5 years. We did pretty good. 300 or 400 grand a year doing a lot of that stuff. And I'd come from being a chef for 35 grand. So I just thought I was like mega rich.
You would have. Yeah.
So yeah, then COVID happened. So I really did 3-5 year chunks in the business. I started just doing photography and a bit of real estate videos. Then COVID hit, and leading into COVID and coming out of it for 4 or 5 years, I'd recognized I was making all this content for people, but they didn't really have a good system to implement it. So I'd make them a load of videos, give them tons of content, and then they'd post like a couple of pieces and wouldn't really know what to do with it. So lots of the food clients that we had, wineries and different products, they were making the majority of their money at the markets. So when COVID happened, they obviously couldn't make any revenue. So I started schooling myself up real quick on implementation, on Facebook, on pixels, on different landing pages and websites and e-commerce. And then I started helping lots of those clients that had all this content that we've made for them, make it work for them through running advertisements and setting up shops, basically. That was really good. And then the last 3 to 5 years, I kind of came full circle back to before the content ever even happens. So what I've now recognized is lots of the content that we made and lots of the implementation strategies that we did weren't really needed to fix the outcome, to fix the problem that they actually had and get them to the outcome that they want. There was just a misalignment of the strategy, and they thought that content would help, and so did I. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They think it's going to work. I'm selling it. So you go through that process. But now I'm helping clients with a lot more of a strategic focus. The reason why most businesses make content and implement it, as you know, is to grow their business, right? Is to get noticed, get more customers. And I've come to terms with the fact that more often than not, the money that's been spent on and the time that's been invested in all of that process probably was irrelevant if we just had better partnerships, better referral incentives, a better sales process, more tactical and strategic marketing systems that don't require all of that time and money. So I still do a lot of content. I still do all of those other things, but more often than not with the clients we work with, I work with accountants, mortgage brokers and consultants. So sort of professional, mostly B2B service-based businesses, and it's not a content problem and it's not a marketing problem. It's it's a strategy problem. So I can kind of take that whole decade's worth of experience and then filter their business through it and help them spot opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise noticed.
You were at one point in time, you were looking at taking on some private equity, growing sort of multi-seven-figure business. And that's kind of when the wheels fell off the bus, right? Talk me through that. Talk me through how many hours you were working, how that impacted your mental health, and the final moment when it was like, something's got to give.
Yeah, so we'd got an opportunity to move. There was a restaurant that had opened up here in Nelson, and they needed a lot of content. And obviously, as a background in food photography, it was natural they came to us, and they had a big space above the restaurant, and they didn't really have any capital for the marketing that they would need. They needed branding, websites, and it was adding up to sort of tens of thousands, and they didn't have the money. So we did a deal basically where we did all of that work for them in return for the space they had. So that was a good way to kind of ease up cash flow on having a studio space, but also get another client, help them, they help us. So we moved into above that restaurant and set up a studio, primarily doing what we were already doing. And then podcasting started to happen. I'd already seen it for many years in the UK, but naturally New Zealand's always a little bit behind with that kind of stuff. And I saw that in my mind, every serious business would be having some kind of podcast, some kind of regular content media machine where they would interview customers and clients and staff, and they would build up a bit of media intellectual property. So, and the studio we'd moved into was way bigger than we needed for the food stuff. So I thought, well, I'll build some podcast capability. I'll build some different sets in the room, and we'll start to kind of unlock that as a new source of revenue. Then I got introduced, one of the food clients that we had got some investment. They got about $1 million invested into their business from someone coming over from Canada on an investment visa. So they were introduced to us by the food company, and he basically showed a big interest in the idea that we had for the podcasting. So we decided to set that up as its own company, receive about $250,000 of investment into that entity, to try and take it to market with an intention to sell it. So my plan was to exit to NZME or MediaWorks, and have built up a large subscription portfolio of businesses coming in regularly, doing content, and that would be something that could be acquired by a bigger media partner. So with that vision, and what I was looking at was probably like a 10 to 15 mil exit. That was kind of where I had the vision. And I'd backwards planned that, obviously, with our accountants and stuff, to have a really solid business plan of, if we can get to these metrics, we could sell it at that multiple. So then I had a target and a goal. And things just started to go wrong. The first year was really good. Had lots of clients come through, developed lots of other soft services on the side, and we had some really good momentum. To answer your question of like sort of the work environment, it was crazy. It was 15 to 18 hour days regularly. It was 40 days straight sometimes with no day off. I'm a fiercely kind of involved dad. So I'd go to work all day, I'd come back, play with the kids, dinner, tuck them in, go back again to the studio, which was just around the corner. I'd be there till 2 a.m. It was just unsustainable. I was doing it was unbelievably painful mentally in that time, but we were slowly getting closer to the goal. So I thought, I can keep persevering at this because we are actually hitting the KPIs that we need to. This is actually going to work. And if I have to sacrifice my physical and mental health for another 6 to 12 months, to be financially free forever, that's a price I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, so you thought it was just, hey, this is just for a short season.
Yeah.
And you were going to get through this.
Yeah. And maybe it's hard to reflect on it now, because I look back and wonder, like, was I completely delusional? Or or was I accurate? Like what, like it's hard to know, because I can look back now from my work-life balance now and just think, you idiot. Like how was that ever going to work? But at the time I just had some other force in me, some other motivation, some other sort of driver that I now don't have. Right. So it's kind of like there was something else at play there that was getting me through that. And I was able to do that for about 18 months at that pace. And I had some mentors and friends and clients that work as burnout coaches and counselors, and they would often come in for coffees into the studio. And one lady, Katrina, she would literally call me out. She'd just say, you're absolutely fucked. Like you're burned out, mate. Like you cannot keep doing this. And I would kind of poo-poo it and say, oh no, it's all good. Or, it's not for much longer. And so I had people noticing it. And then I started to get, I started to just fuck up. I started to just miss appointments. I started to underperform, but I was still doing the hours, and I was still investing, 10, 15 hours of focus every single day into all of the different tasks to be done. But I was making big mistakes. I was dropping balls. I was missing opportunities. So yeah, that's kind of where I first started to notice, like, I wouldn't normally miss that. I wouldn't normally forget about these things. And that's where the symptoms started to sort of pop up.
Yeah. They say that stress can half our IQ, right? We just miss all the stuff going around us. The day you pulled the pin, talk me through that day, like what was going through your mind? Because obviously you got this massive opportunity, devoted family man, and you're thinking this will set us up for life, and from where you came from, like you said, working class, there wasn't a lot of money to go around. So you're thinking, hey, this is a massive once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you're looking at pulling the pin on it. What happened that day?
I think before we get to that day, I think there were other things happening. So I'm always a glass half full. I'm skeptical in nature, or curious and inquisitive, but I also have a sort of positive disposition. So I could sort of feel for 3 months, fuck, I don't know if I can do this. So I knew it way before anybody else knew it, but I didn't feel like a failure, and I just felt like the way I am and the work ethic that I have, if this is harnessed right, this isn't like my only opportunity to win the jackpot. Like I can go back and rebuild something, and I will be able to achieve the goals that I have, whether it's this entity or in 10 years' time. So there was certainly a little bit of comfort that I had there of like my own self-belief. But for those 3 months where things started to, as soon as I started recognizing it and personally admitting it in my own mind, it started to get worse. So while I was able to kind of shove everything down and ignore it and just stay laser focused, it was easy to ignore it. As soon as I started to be more consciously aware of the physical symptoms that I was suffering from, they started to become more apparent, right? I started to notice them more and more. So I wasn't able to be so delusional. I would purposely have all my meetings outside, so that I could wear sunglasses to hide the bags under my eyes and how bloodshot my eyes were. So I'd started to actually evolve into this beast, this working beast, where like I was implementing systems so that nobody noticed, which is kind of like completely crazy, really, when you think about it. I was having these tremor headaches. I'd be driving or talking to my partner after work, and I'd sort of grab the table and feel like there was an earthquake or something, and it was just my head. I was just having like waves of stimulation, and I just felt like the ground was moving. So she started noticing that and knowing something was up. Lots of meetings I would have driving, big important meetings, $20,000 client or a $2,000 a month retainer, and they're going to sign up for 18 months, and this is exactly where I need to get to sell the business. And I'd pull up to the meeting and I'd be like dry retching in the car. One time I had a really important meeting with a company, and it would have been about 50K probably for the business, which was, I only needed a few more of those and we were set. And I remember I opened the door and there was a woman getting her baby out of the car, and I'd parked over a drain, and I drank a pint of water before I left, and I just threw up in the drain, and then wiped my eyes and got my bag on and went into the meeting. And it's just like, this is bad, right? When people are kind of like, "Are you okay?" I'm like vomiting in the middle of a car park. So the day that I guess those symptoms became worse and worse. I wasn't sleeping well. I'd gone to the doctor and got basically bullshitted to them. And said I needed sleeping pills, so I was then taking Zopiclone every night to get to sleep, because I'd just lay there wide awake with just a list of hundreds of jobs and problems of staff at the time, and massive tax bills that I knew were coming in a few weeks, and just endless stress and problems. And I just couldn't how can you shut your brain off in that situation, right? It was just non-stop. Like a flick book through my mind on repeat, non-stop, and I just couldn't sleep. So now I know that I'm medicating myself to literally turn my brain off so that I can be unconscious for a few hours to sleep. So this got worse and worse. I had a confronting conversation with my brother, who's very successful in the UK, and he doesn't pull any punches. And he just said, you're achieving nothing here. You are just getting yourself chronically ill, and you're not a hero. You're not this great entrepreneur. You are making huge mistakes, and your family are paying the price, and you've got to fucking stop this shit. And that was really hard to hear, but good advice at the time. So the day that it finished, I knew I'm a workaholic anyway. And I knew that if I could still dip my toe back in, that I wouldn't be able to stop. I thought, unless I shut this down and just call it a day and just give up on this particular business dream, I'll just take a few weeks off, and then I'll just slowly just get back into it. I basically spoke to the investor and the other director and some other shareholders, and just said, look, I've got to stop. There's no way I can achieve this. It's still quite early for me to get into this, but there was some kind of dark thoughts, and I'm sure you can understand what that is, but I couldn't really see a way to get out of the situation without just completely stopping everything. I just stopped at that point, shut down the business, and kind of there was a moment driving away from the studio. I'd sort of handed the keys over, and I just thought, what is my identity now? What, I don't know what I've gone from, like, yesterday having like endless jobs to do and tasks to be done and people to meet and responsibilities, to like, no, I've blasted out an email, I've got rid of all the clients, all the equipment's going, I'm done. Like, what do I do tomorrow?
Just like that. So there were jobs outstanding, they just stayed where they were, or did someone take over and finish
all the work? Yeah, I'd finished all the work, so there was no work, but there was certainly like work coming up with those clients. They were on retainers, right? So there was certainly, like, next month I had more work to do. And we were being sued at the time, or trying to be sued by a staff member. He'd actually stolen equipment from us and disappeared. We came into the studio one morning, and his desk was cleared out, along with a laptop and some equipment, and he'd just disappeared. At the time, it was right in the thick of that 3-month kind of breakdown period, so I didn't even pursue him. Hannah, my partner who worked in the business, she was desperate for me to do a police report and sort of follow up on it, but I just thought, that's the least of my worries right now. Just whatever, he's nicked some stuff, we've changed the locks, whatever. The end of that 3 months, this was part of the catalyst that caused the breakdown. I got a letter from a no-win, no-fee lawyer up in Auckland saying, I won't say his name, but this guy's going to sue you, basically. You fired him, you what was it called? You kind of unfairly dismissed him. I thought, you got to be joking. He stole from us and disappeared. He abandoned his employment with a bag of my equipment. So kind of went going back and forth with that, and that got really emotionally taxing. As a no-win, no-fee lawyer, they were just hammering me all the time, and it wasn't costing him anything because he's not paying for him unless they win. I was paying a lawyer. I had a company in Wellington. I was about 12 grand. I paid them to try and defend it. I was going to employment relations people here in Nelson. So right in the thick of all of this, right, all this work, I've now just got this extra thing that's been thrown into my backpack where I don't have any skills to deal with it. And it's costing me thousands and thousands of dollars every fortnight to just kind of like try and defend it. And I'm just spending all of our money on defending something I didn't even do. So this really started the process of like a breakdown. I started to just emotionally feel everything.
I can only imagine it would have just added up, you know, one thing on top of another thing. When you pulled the pin, that next morning you woke up, what was going through your mind?
I was ashamed. I was disappointed. I was disappointed that it had got to that. I was questioning why I let that get so far. I was wondering why earlier on, 6 months ago, why didn't I just slow down a little bit? And then it wouldn't have had to come to that, right? So there was a lot of stuff going through my mind, but everything filtered through shame. I felt embarrassed, ashamed. I felt like I'd let my family down, myself down, my clients down. Yeah, hard to put it into one answer, but I just felt like a failure. And I've got imposter syndrome anyway, as most people do. So I just felt like I was proven right, that I'm shit.
Right.
Obviously, this was your destiny. You were going to fail. You were going to work too hard. You were going to miss opportunities. You were going to expose yourself to risk. You were going to be taken advantage of because you're shit at business. And that imposter syndrome that's been in your mind is right. And here you are as a failure. That was really where I ended up with it for the first month, probably.
Oh, how we beat ourselves up. We're our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
So you sought comfort in food?
Yeah, I think I'd put on a lot of weight over that 18 months. And I was also above a restaurant and doing like majority of my daily work was just photographing delicious foods.
You didn't make it easy on yourself, right?
Yeah, it was not the best environment to be in. But it was just a lot of like, not much physical activity. Lots of, again, there's a restaurant, so it's like I just buzzed them on the little intercom and they'd bring up like bowls of fries and wedges and cooked chickens and roast beefs. And so I'm like in there doing 20-hour work days and they're just bringing up food all the time. And
I don't know if I would have survived that, mate.
Yeah.
If I was.
And then going home, and it was too much of a physical or emotional effort to actually cook a meal as a family. So it was like Hannah was fully looking after the boys and working in the business. So she didn't really have time to do like cooking either, even though she was working part-time in the business. There's just, you're basically running two startups if you've got two sons. So she was doing her own thing, you know, and then it would just come home and I'd just come home with takeout and it would just, so I guess it became like just a default habit of like, I have to focus on the work. So if I can remove the burden of preparing food where it just gets delivered right in front of me and I can just eat it and crack on with work, mixed with a sedentary environment where I'm just sitting at a computer or sitting at a cafe eating scones, having a meeting, it's kind of like that combination just spiraled out of control. And I wasn't aware of it until I'd kind of finished, I'd stopped the business and then I just saw a sort of reflection of me walking with my kid and I just thought, fucking hell, this is out of control. Like, and people had
So you
made
caught
jokes.
yourself walking past the shop or whatever?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I just sort of thought, like, I can actually see your belly now. Your t-shirt, your extra large or double XL t-shirt now is actually like not even fitting. Like, I just thought that used to be like super baggy on me. So that was the first kind of thing where I'm like, fucking hell, maybe I'm like really overweight. Then I went home and weighed myself and it was 104, I think. I just thought, fucking hell, like 10 years ago, I was 85.
Yeah.
Like And I felt big then. So it's just like, what has happened? You're like 20 kilos easily overweight. And then I'm not sleeping, bad habits, drinking quite a lot. I'm just thinking everything's fucked here. The business is gone.
But based on what you went through, Todd, it's kind of like putting on weight was the least of your worries. Right?
Yeah, I just you were
focused on getting this thing built and exiting, or at least having it work well. But then you step back. So you pulled the pin, step back, and talk to me about, because you went through an entire journey with meditation, journaling. Talk to me about what saved you, man. What brought you out of the darkness, for want of another word.
Yeah, I think coming on, I told you at the beginning I was a bit nervous about this because nobody really knows this. This is the first time I've spoken about this where anybody might actually hear it. So I did quite a good job of concealing everything, even the business failure and stuff. I'd set up a new company and people didn't really know that anything had happened. So that was by design. The shame and the embarrassment was bad enough. I didn't really want like a big public announcement or anything. I kind of just tried to avoid talking about it. So I'm being a bit vulnerable here for you, Kevin, and going out on a limb. But I think what you're doing is important, and I think if anyone listens to this story and can relate to where I'm at, I think it's worth. This is a worthy price to pay.
It can serve as a cautionary tale, man, and that's what this is all about. It's about impacting lives, and because often people are going through similar things to what we're going through, and they think they're the only one. They hear someone else, and it can really help.
And you inspired me. I saw you doing the fasting stuff. I saw you doing way back. That was probably right in the thick of it, actually. That was about a year ago, wasn't it, when you'd done the big fast?
Yeah, it was like a year, 18 months, 12 days, yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you posting about the bone broth and stuff, and I was right in the thick of the worst time, really, when I saw that, and that did inspire me a lot. I kind of thought I'll put that in the back of my mind for another day.
And that's good to hear.
Yeah, I saw you losing a lot of weight and being healthier and seeming happier, and yeah, I definitely saw that popping up on LinkedIn, and I got a lot of motivation from you at that time. So I think, to answer your question though, I'd gone up to fuck it. We'll go all out there.
Go.
It was the middle of summer. The kids were in the little paddling pool thing outside, and I was laying on that bed that's right in front of me there, and I could hear them laughing outside, and I'd just stopped everything, and I was questioning everything deeply, and I started to go through that flick book again, getting sued, fucking public embarrassment, you're gonna have no money, the fuck are you gonna do? Started flick, and then it just got quicker and quicker, more and more things piling up. And I thought, how do I get out of this? Like, this is such a mess. I just do not know what to do. And I felt a warm feeling, like a sort of warmed up blanket came over me. And I had a clear thought of, you could kill yourself. And I remember feeling it. It wasn't like a thing I'd planned out or anything. I just felt like logically, that would end everything. That would end the pain and the suffering that I'm feeling. That does actually get rid of all the problems if I'm just not conscious ever again. So it's kind of a weird.
You gave me tingles, man. Just in transparency of being there myself too. The thought comes in, and it
was inviting though. That's what scared me.
Yeah.
That's what scared me. I'd never had that thought before. I've known a few people along the way that have killed themselves, and somebody in Hannah's family hung himself from a tree with a young kid, and so I've seen the devastation that leaves behind. I know what is involved in that type of decision. So it wasn't like it just felt I could now relate to people that have done it and people that have thought it, and survivors of that in a new way, because it felt like a good idea, which is like not what I thought it would be, right? I always looked at it as like a cowardly thing to do, or like a like a weakness, but it felt right, which is kind of like, I thought that's how it gets you, right? That's the grip it can have on you, is it feels like the only way. And it gives you hope because there's a new way to explore now. Not solve all the problems, just do this and then it's over. So that scared me a lot. And I sat with that for maybe 15 seconds, just the warmth of that. And then I remember kind of shaking out of that, and the kids really loud then, and I just thought, fuck, I literally got up, put swimming shorts on, jumped in the pool, splashed my face, played with them. I thought, what was that? Like, that was a weird out of body kind of like thing there. So that was the first and only time that happened. But straight away the next morning, it was a Tuesday morning, I drove up to the CAT team, community assessment team, like a part of the part of the DHB that deal with acute mental health, and I just buzzed in. Hannah drove me up there. I told her straight away, I said, fuck, I actually thought about killing myself. And she knows how I think, and I'm kind of black and white, so just the fact I'd even thought of that was alarming. So she drove me up there, and I buzzed the intercom and just said, I need to see someone. And it was a shit experience. They failed me completely. I went in and saw a kind of psychologist, talked through where I was at, and it was a couple of people, kind of graduates that had just finished, and I just thought, you are not prepared to deal with this. And that's when I started to realize how overwhelmed the system is. You don't have the tools to deal with this. They gave me a piece of paper, I've got it somewhere, and it just had like a few QR codes on it where you could download a couple of apps, the Calm meditation app, and it was sort of like, if you get these feelings again, here's a helpline. And I'd suggest just like do some mindfulness practices and, come back.
That was it.
That's it. See you later. No appointment, no follow-up, nothing. I just thought, then I started to think, no one is going to save me. At the time, all my money was locked up in the accounts. So I didn't really have any access to meaningful money to hire someone privately. I did phone, I won't name them, but I did phone two kind of coaches locally to see if I could do a barter deal with them. Can I sort of do some marketing work for them in return for a program to help me reset my life? And they both said no. And then I just thought, no one's coming to save me here. Like, I've been through the most embarrassing process here of ringing an intercom and saying, please help me, I'm struggling with my mental health. That's kind of like, there's no dignity when you press that button.
Yes, very humbling experience.
Very, very humbling experience. So I just thought, I've got to fix this myself. So I wrote down a list. And being dyslexic and entrepreneurial and a problem solver, I thought I can do this. Like I'm a week removed now from that thought. I haven't had it again. I've now got a new mission to like kind of turn this around for me, right? So now I had a bit of hope again. And I don't think hope is that much of a tangible mental state, really. I think hope is a bit of a poor man's cry. That's what I've always believed. I think, if you're just relying on hope, I think, I don't think that's enough. But nonetheless, I had some hope, I had a strategy, I had some belief, I had some ideas, and I'd had rejection. I'd had no's from the people that I thought would help me, and I've had a failed system that should help me. So I thought, I've now got some kind of resistance, and there's some stuff here to get traction. So I wrote down on the left-hand side of a piece of paper all the things that were wrong, starting with the obvious stuff. You're fat, you're not sleeping well, you are depressed, you are stressed, you've got no income, all the way down. And then the further down the list you get more philosophical, right? You have a self-belief problem, you have imposter syndrome, all those kind of things. Then on the right-hand side, I just connected them to what the opposite of that would be. So you're fat, you're in shape. You're not sleeping, you sleep well. All the way down the list. Then in the middle, what the obstacle was that was stopping me getting that. So you're fat, you're in shape, work out and eat less. Right? So that it was literally that binary.
I love the process. What a great way to unpack it all instead of it running around your brain, right?
Yeah, and that's the dyslexia, right? And that's the I'd been doing a lot of strategy work and stuff at the time. So that was kind of like, I was used to that process of like, you're here as a business, you want to be here, there's things in the way. How can we get over those obstacles? So
Bridge that gap, yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of made sense to me to look at it like that. I don't think I've answered your question really, which was, I don't even know what your question was on what.
I can't remember either.
But I think once I had that list, I now had like a manual, right? I now had a to-do list, and I had a list of things that I want to be far away from that I can measure eventually where I am versus where I was. So that turned into that right-hand side of the list. Gave me the obstacles, and then the obstacles became tools. So then it's like, well, if I extrapolate them out further, working out and eating less means research on diet, pulling apart auditing my diet and what do I need and what shouldn't I do. And the working out means find some sports I want to do, or join a running club, or figure out a route I can walk around the block once a day.
So you basically took those problems, the obstacles, and you created action steps from them.
Yeah.
And you just went about checking them off one by one. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I built my own weird little program. I'd met that lady, Katrina Kidson. She's an amazing coach and a wonderful lady. And she's always had a lot of time for me. And I went and met with her for a coffee around that time and just told her what had happened. She did give me some free coaching and free advice. She spent a lot of time with me, helping me through stuff and just listening and not judging. And like, I really needed someone like her at the time. And she didn't really know how important she was to me at the time, but I really looked forward to and valued the time we spent together. And she coined the term like your own life coach. She said, "You're being your own life coach." I thought, yeah, I am actually.
That's wonderful. Shout out to Katrina.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was that was good. So I started to just put together a program. I thought, well, if I go to one of these guys locally and pay them $2,800 for a Reset Your Life program, what the fuck are they going to do really? They're going to have frameworks and some tools. They're going to have some research and some knowledge, and they're going to have some accountability. That's really all you're going to pay them for, right? And I've got ChatGPT, a curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, so I can learn all the stuff they know.
And like very motivated to heal yourself.
Yeah. Well, no one else is going to do it, right?
You weren't sitting there, I'm a victim, poor me, come and,
I did for a while. I definitely did for a while. I definitely like cried myself to sleep a few times and fucking felt sorry for myself. But then I just thought, well, there's only one pathway. There's only one place that leads to. Just you beat yourself up more and more internally. People start to feel like you're a bit of a burden. You're not even doing anything to help yourself. The system isn't going to save you. You don't have resources to get anyone else to save you. So you just become more and more toxic to be around for other people. I thought I've got to be a light for others. I have to actually be an inspirational force in the family. I need my kids and my partner and my wider family to see a change, a turnaround. There was just something in me that was kind of like, I don't want this to be that type of story. Like I want this to be an inspirational story of like failed, lost everything, got right down to the bottom, but built himself up and now look at where they are. That was just in the background. So I took those obstacles, I extrapolated them out to some processes. Some were more important than others. And the weight loss was certainly like one of the highest. I just thought everything else will flow from that. If I'm eating better and exercising more, everything else is going to come from that discipline. So the mindfulness and the better routines and the better conversations and relationships and everything else is going to kind of emanate from losing weight and eating cleaner. I started.
There's so much in that, Todd. And like you said, the discipline, it's almost by osmosis, right? It can just come over to other parts in your life. If you're anchoring in, the nutrition, you're anchoring in regular exercise, and it's like all of a sudden that starts showing up in other places. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I didn't. Yeah, absolutely right. And I didn't know the power of it because I'd never had a weight problem. So I just ate kind of, it was always a joke as a kid that like Todd can eat like a whole chocolate cake and not put on a pound. It's just like I just had high metabolism. I could eat a lot. and I was always just super skinny. So it was kind of like, until I wasn't, until eating a lot actually meant you're 25 kilos overweight and you're a slob. I think, I started walking around the block. I can see the walk I do right now. It's about 5K loop. The first one, it was horrendous. Like the first time I woke up in the morning, 7 o'clock, I thought, I'm going to do it. Today's the day I'll start working out. It was just shocking. I was so out of breath going up like a moderate hill like this. I just like, I'm a K in and I'm already looking for ways to get out of it. It's just like, this is crazy how bad this has got. And then sort of day after day, it got easier. I started fasting. I'd always kind of fasted anyway before that 2-year period in the business. I never really ate a lot. I think that's why I probably kept the weight off, because I wasn't eating a breakfast, lunch and dinner with snacks and an ice cream every night. I'd kind of just eat one meal because I was too busy working. And I felt like more focused. I felt more sharp. Again, none of this is just my own theories, but there's certainly something in that kind of caveman diet of sort of like, we've evolved to hunt all day and be focused and sharp and find to kill, and then come back and make a fire and sit there and eat it at the end of the day.
I agree, mate. Yeah.
There's something in there. I don't know scientifically, but
Yeah.
so I, when I don't have breakfast and I don't have lunch, I feel much more alert, much more in tune with everything. I feel sharper and more focused, and then I kind of enjoy the meal at the end of the day so much better, and we put so much more effort into making it. And so I think, I started doing that loop, started fasting. I think it's called an OMAD diet. It's like
1 meal a day. Yeah. What about meditation?
Yeah, so that I had Diary of a CEO diary thing.
Yeah.
I think it's here. Let me get it, because there's something in there I can read to you. You'll have to cut this out. Mm-hmm. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, I think I sent you a couple of pictures of some of this setup. But yeah, I started doing the walking stuff. And it wasn't like really highly intense. It was just 5K every morning, and most afternoons I'd do the loop again. So some days I'm just doing 10K of walking. I would deliberately not take headphones because I didn't want to be motivated. I didn't want to listen to music. I wanted to think. I thought I can kill two birds with one stone here. Because if I'm going to come back and do meditation, but I'm going to just fill my head with a load of stuff first when I go for a walk, it's kind of like, that's going to, I can think and walk and not eat, right? So I can get 3 things done here in this 1 hour piece. So I wouldn't take headphones, and I would just notice, I just started playing with my mind. I just started noticing how quickly weakness would show up and all the many forms that it would show up in. How I started to run, and at the beginning it was 100 meters and I'll be totally gassed, and then it would be 200 meters, and then I could do half a K, and then now I can do the full 5K. But I just noticed how quickly that voice would pop up of like, oh, you've done enough, or oh, it's cold, or oh, you're gonna hurt your knee, or I fell over a few times and bust my leg open, and it was kind of like, don't keep running, this is stupid, Todd, you're going to get an injury. And this is just weakness, right, disguised to try and protect you. But I just thought, so I started enjoying that, right? I started looking for that weakness. That started me doing cold showers. So then I thought, after my run then, I'll do a cold shower, because that was the quickest way for me to be confronted with that voice. Any cold immersion therapy, I'm sure you've done it and lots of people are doing it now, but getting in an ice bath or getting in a cold shower is like the most immediate way to be face to face with your weakness, because it will tell you every reason why you shouldn't do it, and it's convincing. And it will say, you've done it for 10 days already, you don't need to have a day off, you've earned it. All this type of shit that's just like, and you're just immediately confronted with it. So I was basically playing a bit of a psychotic game with myself of like, run until that voice comes and then ignore it and try and overcome it. Be hungry until that voice comes and then ignore it and don't eat until you said you're going to eat. Get home and have a shower, turn it on cold and don't turn it on warm, even though that's all you want to do, and ignore the voice. And then go and do meditation after that process and unpack it. So all my diary submissions are basically the conversations I've had with that voice of weakness. which is
love this, Todd.
quite weird.
Mate, I'm loving this. I'm loving this. And each time you're doing that, like the strength, the inner strength that you're building, mate, by going beyond that limit, not just in one area, but all those different areas. Man, what a way to come back.
And the meditation was interesting because I would then structure. I think this is the dyslexia, or maybe I'm just weird, but I knew I needed like a bit of a logical flow. So that get straight up, shoes on, out the door. That was just the best thing to do. As soon as you start going, I'll walk later, or, you know, it's just like this. I'm literally walking down the road, wiping like sleep out my eyes. That had to be just the very first thing, confronted with the one thing I didn't want to do the most, and then just give myself no excuse. So I had shorts, a hoodie, and shoes, and that is it. I just do that loop. Then straight in the shower, that's done. Then I realized one of the obstacles to my sleep was caffeine. I just knew I was drinking too much coffee. At the height of it, I would have like 10 double espressos a day sometimes. And that was really just because of the crashes. I'm offsetting dopamine crashes with just more coffee to keep me going again. I'm just like proper coffee addict. And then coming home and popping sleeping pills because I had a coffee at like 8 o'clock at night. So this is just, I'm fucking my whole brain up, my whole body, my heart will just be under so much pressure. I just thought, I've got to stop the coffee. So I stopped coffee for 2 years. I've had 4 or 5 coffees in the last couple of weeks, but other than that, I just didn't touch a drop of coffee. Cold turkey. I had terrible headaches, really bad back pain, all these kind of symptoms that came from not having caffeine. And I started drinking cacao. I don't know if you've come across cacao. Because I needed something to fill that gap, that habit. So I wanted like a hot mug of something. Green teas were getting boring for me after a while, so I went and found cacao, and then now I've got like a little ceremony I can do. Right, I get the blocks of it, so I've got to shave it off. I've got my honey that we get from the beehives outside. There's a kind of there's a fun, enjoyable sort of process, a reason. You know, it's not just put the coffee in and drink it. It's like I've got to create it and with intention. So make my cacao, and then I'd come in and sit right here and have my journal, a pint of water, and my cacao. And then I curated a playlist of different guided meditations that would take me from simple little 5-minute ones that would just get me in the zone to then like a deeper 45-minute like transcendental meditation to try and get me deeper subconsciously. And then a guy called Hindsight, and he basically journals with you. So it's like a 20-minute video. He puts some music on and he's journaling on the video and you're journaling. And that was my accountability, right? Because I fooled myself into like, well, I'm journaling with him every day.
I love that.
Because I can't get that from anyone else.
Yeah.
Everyone's out busy and I'm on my own here. So I need like a buddy. I need like a digital buddy. And it's the same video. So he's there for me every day. It's the same song. It's like an anchor point, right? To feel like I'm with
He
you.
always shows up.
Yeah, he's always there for me. So then I would do the journaling. And then I would finish with like a bit of breathwork stuff. Different, I don't know if you've seen the guy Lucas Mack, Awaken. You come across that guy from Auckland. He's got like some different breathwork, like Wim Hof style kind of purging and stuff. So I'd just kind of do that to get myself filled with oxygen, and then I would sit at a desk and start building a new life, new business. So yeah, that's kind of the process that I followed. But what I wanted to show you was this was the very first one. So this is almost a year ago exactly. This is the 9th of August, 24. It's probably going to be opposite on here, but this is a ranking of how you feel. So 1 is I'm fucked. And what I wrote was so many paths to follow. Basically, which one do I do? I basically said I feel lost and confused. I don't know where to go next. I thought, do I get a job? Do I pull back and start the business again? Do I start a new business? Do I kill myself? Do I go back to the cat team? Like it was kind of endless. Like, where do I go? What do I do? So I just committed to this practice. And then when you get to some of the ones recently, it's so much better. I don't know whether this will make your thing, but where is it? Yeah, so here's This is June 25. So now it's like 4 plans, right? Now it's gone from just silly sketches. A lot of the first ones were just kind of like weird. I wasn't even taking it seriously. When I look at it, I can see how it's just like, I don't even know how to journal.
But you were brain dumping it, right? It's better on the page than in your head, you know? You can start to make some order of it.
But I was too nervous to even write what I was feeling. That's all the first ones. I'm looking at them now. They're all just weird little sketches and like pictures of sad faces and shit. It's kind of so primitive journaling, right? I don't really know what I'm even supposed to do. And then as I start doing it and committing to it, and as I do it after the meditation finishes, I'm thinking of things. I've got ideas and plans and systems and things I want to make right, and people I'd long forgotten about where I'd burned a bridge and I should just reach out and apologize. And all things were just bubbling up from under the surface that were kind of lost and hidden. And now they're like multiple pages of very in-depth philosophical thinking that anchors me that day to like, I can't wait to do it again tomorrow, because what will I think tomorrow, right? And there's so much stuff in here about just like recommitting to the kids and, you know, commitments and just kind of like priorities that I just forget about sometimes. Yeah, here's one of the lists. So this was basically, I'm unhappy, I want to be happy, and then here's all the little steps I'm taking to get myself happy. So it's cold showers, fasting, meditation, working out, cacao drinks, more water, Celtic salt, breath work, thinking positive, journaling, gazing at the sun, eating clean. So the just little things like that, right? Where it's like, I've got a mantra now to follow.
Yeah. Todd, man, I'm sure for the audience listening, that's going to inspire a number of people to try journaling, to try give it a go, because just get very powerful. Get it out there on the page, getting those thoughts out rather than running through your head. And yeah. Kudos to you, mate. Yeah.
I feel like all I've done is just absolutely rant.
No. But the thing is, what I'm in awe of is that you face a situation. It's like the hero's journey, right? You know, you had this call to adventure, you came to New Zealand and you know, you went through this whole process, and then all of a sudden here's the monster, the dragon to slay, which is actually yourself. Okay. And you've done it. You've conquered like yourself, you know, your mind. You know, they say if, you know, no enemy outside stands a chance if we can, you know, defeat the enemy inside.
It's definitely some armor. I've definitely feel like I've got some armor around me. Whereas, because I've absolutely slipped. There's days and days. There's 2 weeks in here where I didn't even do it. I didn't do the walk. I slipped back and I just got busy. And as the new business started, I wouldn't make it my priority. And then I would do a journal and I'd be back in the same boat again. So it's not like I've just committed to this and I've perfected it. I slip all of the time. I had some bloody beers last night. I had a coffee yesterday. Like, I'm still in that thing, but I feel protected with my own armor of like, I can never get as bad as I was, because as soon as I start to be aware of this, I've got my practice and I can just implement it again from tomorrow morning. So I'm just
You've got this whole toolkit that you've like forged right over hot iron, you know, like and that's it, man. And that's just called life and being human, right? None of us are perfect, mate. So yeah, very, very cool. So let's give some tangible advice to the audience listening. If there's people out there, let's say your story is resonating with them. So they're in business, they're working every hour under the sun. They've got a young family potentially as well, and they've gained the weight, and they're just in a situation where they're just like, I hate my life. I've gone so far away from the person that I know or the man or woman that I was proud of. You know, what would you say? What's the first step that they should take?
Probably a series of why questions. If I could go back to me 2 years ago, if 2 years ago I was watching this, and I would have said, why are you working like this? I would have answered, so I can sell the business and make loads of money. And why do you want to do that? So that I can be financially free and provide for my kids. And why do you want to do that? Because they deserve the best, and because I can spend loads of time with them. So just after 3 questions, we've got to, I'm working like this so I can be a better dad, but I'm delusional, because to be a better dad, it means never see them for 2 years and work 18 hours a day and be stressed every time they want to ask you a question. I can be a good dad today. I can just immediately make time for them and be at the basketball game and be nice and slow down. And so what I'm doing all of this for is a fucking complete delusion. I can just be a good dad if I want to be, So it's kind of like, the more you would ask those why questions, and this is where float tank comes in. The biggest advice I could give, to be quite honest, is to, in Nelson, it's called Uplift Float Center. But they're everywhere. The biggest advice I could give anyone that's struggling, before you go to a therapist or a counselor or do any of this kind of journaling stuff, is go and do a float session. Because what you're confronted with is who you really are immediately. Have you ever done one, Kevin?
I have, yeah. I had one at, so I want to say it was called Serenity. I'm pretty sure it was called Serenity in Hamilton. That was my first one. I've also done one in Whangarei. And yeah, man.
I don't know if you would echo that sentiment then, or if you'd agree with me, but for me, I was immediately confronted with how loud my brain is. Like, when it's hard to, the first 2 or 3, it was quite difficult to get anywhere, because you're kind of still floating a bit and you touch the edge and it kind of like reminds you that you're in a float tank. But once you can get to the place where you're just still in there, I had a totally sort of transformational experience the first couple of times. I just realized how what 50,000 thoughts a day actually sounds like. Like I was confronted with it, where there wasn't cars going outside and I'm looking at you on the screen and I can hear sounds out there and I'm touching the table. There's nothing but your thinking, and you are absolutely confronted for like the first time in your life with nothing but your thoughts. And you can very quickly use that as a tool to unpack. I started to just bank things into what are the most dominant thought patterns. So are they negative or positive? Are they about business? Are they about personal life? I was able to kind of audit my thinking and think, what are the most common themes here? And like, where are they coming from? And you can explore them in a different way. So the most, I think, honestly, I feel like the most important thing to do is find a way or find a place where you can sit and reflect. Most people probably don't sit in a chair with no headphones in and just look out the window for half an hour a day. I bet there's probably, like, anyone listening to this, let's say this goes and gets 5,000 views. I bet every single person that listens to this could not honestly say that in the last year, they've just sat on a chair, looked out at a tree, and not had any stimulation and just thought for 30 minutes. Almost guarantee that nobody would have done that.
Yeah, not without their phone or music.
People don't even go to the toilet now without fucking playing chess or looking at Instagram and stuff. So I think there's no periods of reflection. So the first piece of advice would just be to find a way or a place or a time. All the runners I see, headphones on, watches buzzing off on their wrist, they're still getting stimulation. They're not just thinking. They got David Goggins in their ear telling them they can do anything. It's like, you've got to be able to get to the point where you can tell yourself you can do anything. So, and I just think a float tank is the quickest way to access that. But yeah, sit and think. Just force yourself for an hour a week to just sit down and just see how you think. That will have such a massive effect on every other area of your life.
Audit your thinking. Think about your thinking.
Yeah.
I love it. And you're right. Like, I'm looking back on my own life, and I've done some serious work the last couple of years, but prior to that, I never thought about what I was thinking or what's coming up or where's that feeling coming from. No, it would just be a visceral emotional reaction or what have you. Something I do, man, which So you're talking about no headphones running or walking or whatever. So I'll walk in the bush and I'll have my AirPods in, but I'll play alpha brainwaves on transparency. So you're getting this like meditative music, but you're still hearing the bush sounds and the natural sounds. That's, man, that can get you thinking.
Yeah, I'll try that. I'll definitely try that. There is something, the nature piece is another thing. I sent you some photos, obviously, but
Yeah.
just getting out and like doing that for fun with the kids each weekend. We'd just do different hiking trails and take a little gas stove and make a cacao at the top of the hill somewhere as a reward, and then we'll just go for a big walk together and just do stupid stuff like hug trees. And it's weird, right? Like, because I would have punched myself in the face 2 years ago for almost everything I've said on this podcast. I would have just thought, you are a hippie bullshit weirdo. But this stuff is these are tools that are just like, they're modernized now in different breathwork studios and float tanks and things. But these are ancient tools, right? That like the ability to just look at the stars and be around fire and community and discuss ideas. And like, this is shit that just got us here to where we are now, right? These are like innate evolutionary tools, right? To like think, to use your brain and just think about stuff and not be constantly distracted with screen to phone to conversation to meeting. This is just not normal. So I feel like,
Absolutely, man.
just getting back to basics and we hugged trees. Again, I would have punched myself directly in the nose for saying that 2 years ago. But there was a massive tree and there is something weird that comes from that. Like when you hug a tree and just be thankful for like the oxygen you're giving me, there is something weird that happens there. I can't explain it. And unless you're brave enough to actually drop your ego at the forest floor and fucking do it, you don't really understand. And it's not that I'm out there like moonlight drumming and like fully hippie, but if you actually just hug and kiss a tree and say thank you, it's been there for like 2,000 years. This tree is massive. The knowledge and the seasons and the weather that it's endured, to just actually be thankful for nature is like, I don't know, there's just something weird. There's just some dopamine that goes off in your head or some physical response that you get when you're walking barefoot on the beach and you can call it grounding. You can do, whatever you want to, sort of modern things to make it seem cooler, but just being appreciative of like sun in your eyes and trees all around you is just not a place I thought I would ever get to. But I'm so much more in tune with nature.
Yeah, don't knock
Cut
it.
all of this. Cut all of that.
Don't knock it till you've tried it, right? I'm laughing because I'm a tree hugger too, dude. Like I'll go down the bush track. I'm going for a walk literally after this podcast, and I'll go down the track, mat, and I'm touching the leaves, I'm touching the bark as I'm walking down. Man, I like connecting, and and there's something in it,
There's some rosemary just at the bottom of the driveway, and then and I fist bump the rosemary as I go for my walk. And when I get back around, I fist bump it again. I'm like, I'm here. You're here again today. I'm here again.
The rosemary.
We're kind of in it together, right? You're still growing. It was raining last night, and you're still here waiting for me to come fist bump you. So it's kind of, there's all this kind of weird little things, little tricks that you can play to just engage with it, right? So it's not just you walking in the bush. You're kind of like feeling more part of it.
Perfect. Breathwork is incredibly powerful as well. I was in a couple of weeks ago, I had a session. Oh, gee, the last name escapes me, but it was with an Irish man. So I was in Bali with this group, and basically online entrepreneurs, right? We had a 3-day event at a place called The Seed in Bali, in Kantadisa, which is insane location. But there was a guy in our group who took the breath work, and like he certifies breath work people. So he knew his stuff. Man, incredibly powerful. Pat, he was an Irishman. There can't be too many breath work facilitators named Pat, that Irishman. So if you're listening, Pat, shout out to you, brother. But yeah, very, very powerful, man. There was a bit of primal screaming going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then an incredibly one of the lessons that came up was we paired up with people, and let's say you and I paired up, Todd, and for 4 minutes I would sit down and I'd look in your eyes, and you'd be looking in my eyes, and I'd say, what would you do if you weren't afraid, Todd?
Mm.
And then you would answer, and then I would ask the same question. And all of a sudden you're rattling off all this stuff, right? And it's just, pulls it back, man, pulls back the curtain.
Yeah, I think breath work is like, again, it's something that like, unless you really commit to it and do it properly, it sounds like a bunch of bullshit hippies sitting on a yoga mat, breathing together. There is some place you go to when you can do holotropic breathing properly that I've only scratched the surface, and it scared the shit out of me, because I realized that that is accessible to me within about 15 minutes anytime I want. And it made me really worried. It made me nervous that I don't really understand reality whatsoever. And I've always...
It's the Matrix, man. We're living in the Matrix.
100%. But there was I don't know, I got to a place where I, you know those lollipops, Chubba Chub lollipop things where you push the lollipop up and the head kind of snaps open.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a giraffe or whatever. And then my head just broke open. So there's one you can follow on YouTube. It's a holotropic breathing thing. And you're basically purging and you are just flooding your brain with oxygen and literally changing the pH balance in your blood, right? That's what's happening when you're breathing. I got to a place where I was just like fully visualizing basically a through line of love. So again, I don't know what it is when you're not religious, but you're not religious. So I'm not an atheist. I believe in some kind of creative force, but I don't believe that's Buddha or God or...
You're open-minded.
Yeah, I'm agnostic or something, I think it is. But there's some, I basically felt that presence from just breathing for 15 minutes with the sun in my eyes. And I'm a pretty logical, skeptical, rational guy. And 15 minutes of breathing in this way, my head just cracked open like a lolly. And I felt the love I feel for my sons, how deep that love is for them. I would walk on hot coals for them in a heartbeat. And then I thought, well, my dad must have that feeling for me. Because if I have it for that, there's no way that just ends at me. He must have that for me. And his dad must have it for him. And then a little flip book again in my mind went again. And I thought, well, that through line just never ends then. That goes back to through all of evolution, that innate, powerful love that you'd do anything for that person. That
tingles, man.
That has to have continued on to something. And then you kind of like get a bit distracted but yeah, it's all these kind of things that like you can go, nobody realizes that for $79 you can just go to another universe in like 10 minutes, right? You just drive down there and you can completely leave this whole life. You can breathe for 15 minutes and you can have like full-on psychedelic visions that show you lessons that you need to learn. Like I definitely, next on my list, I think for next year would be an ayahuasca ceremony. I'd definitely like to take all of this stuff that I've done here and like really go to like the limit of that.
Yeah.
I'd love to do...
It certainly sounds like you're building up to it.
Yeah, I'm too nervous now. I don't think I could handle it. I feel like I dip my toe in all these things and then I'm like confronted with such kind of overwhelming thinking and visions and feelings that like it's hard to know how that is like jumping straight in. I don't think I'm ready for it. But I'd certainly love to do it at some point. Have you done any like plant?
No, I haven't done ayahuasca. But I know a number of people who have, and it is on my cards, my bucket list, mate. It's something I want to do. So
looking. Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say I was coming close to booking a trip late last year to Mexico, and I've had this calling, man, like something pulling me to go to Costa Rica, right? And then I thought, well, while I'm down that way, I could go to Peru, and sample some ayahuasca. But yeah.
Someone told me not to do it when your kids are young.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I've never thought about it like this, but it makes sense. It can be so changing to your personality that you almost die in your kid's perspective. You know, that like, and that's part of it is a bit of an ego death, right? And to acknowledge and take lessons from your past and what you need to change and stop bad habits and things. But for kids, that's quite unfair. He made quite a good point. He'd done it when his kids were quite young and just felt like a disconnect with them forever after.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like,
I heard that before. Yeah.
yeah, and it does make sense, right? If you kind of like, you're hopefully changing for the better, but you are nonetheless completely changing. And for them, they just know you as you, and kind of like getting healthier and fitter and not drinking so much is like, that's fine. But if you're completely changing like your entire outlook on you, connection, human race, spirituality, so quickly like that within a weekend, it can kind of be like quite destabilizing. It certainly was for him, and I definitely took that on board. So I'd probably wait till they're like kind of early teens.
Yeah.
Give it sort of 4 or 5 years, and just so that they can actually be in on it and they can kind of like see the transformation rather than it catching them off guard and suddenly you're like a completely different type of person. I think,
Yeah, like you said, if they're early teens or even mid-teens, and they can have a bit of an understanding of why you want to do it, you know, and the process you're entering into. Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, Todd, where can people get hold of you if they want to talk all things either ayahuasca or strategy?
yeah, the whole gamut.
You're an interesting man. Yeah. What's the best place? What's a social platform or website?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm on every social platform, but I don't really go on any of them other than LinkedIn, and I'm rarely on that. But I'll see messages on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Website's just my full name, toddstar.co.nz, and again, I'm only exclusively working in a marketing capacity with accountants, mortgage brokers, and consultants. So if you're one of those and you're listening and you like my bend on the universe, then you can reach me there. And I'm also not, this is kind of weird for me, right? All of these conversations, this is not something normally I'd kind of like publicly do, but I think this is the stuff you should make time for. I think you're a special guy. I've watched you for many years, and I think, it's an honor to come on and answer some of your questions, and hopefully it can help someone sometime, somewhere.
Oh man, I'm humbled. Thank you so much for your kind words, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, Todd. It's been really cool and great to connect with you. So yeah, I imagine we'll talk again sometime soon, mate. So until then, thanks for being on 100 Pounds to Freedom.
Thanks, Kevin. Pleasure.
Cheers.